Hello. In this video, I will go over Module 1 for Microsoft Word. This chapter is titled Creating Documents with Word, and I'm going to go through the SAM textbook project with you. This is a graded assignment for this class, but you could watch the video and work alongside at the same time as if we're meeting face-to-face in a lecture. So here it is in modules. I'm going to go ahead and click on the link about these icons that appear in the textbook that let you know when it's time to download a file from SAM, when it's time to upload the file back to SAM for grading. So there's also a video link here on how to complete SAM projects. I'm going to go through the whole project here, but that is some helpful information for you to understand how this works, reading through the textbook and completing the assignments to be uploaded for automatic grading. There is a link here to load this in a new window in your browser, so that is how I will launch the assignment. It opens up Cengage, and it might take a moment for it to load, and you'll get the start screen. The start screen does have this link here to check here to make sure you have the correct version of Office installed. Remember, if you are using a Chromebook, you cannot install the full complete professional edition of Microsoft Office. It's an abbreviated version that doesn't have all of the resources that you need for this course. So you can check that on your computer if you want to make sure. There's also some notes here that says you're allowed 3 submissions. So you can try it once, see how well you did, and then fix any problems and resubmit it up to 3 times. I'll click the Start button. And this screen has all the information that we need. We need to download all of the files that are required for this project. Here is where we will upload the completed project. And here is where we would see our submitted projects and links in order to see our reports and how we did. Now, you'll notice here it says expected file names. There are 2 files listed here because when you go through the entire chapter, you'll actually end up creating 2 files. So I'm going to first start by clicking Download All. I can see that there's the instructions. I really don't need to download. This is not a downloadable file, only the ones that have a little download arrow. This is actually a link to the ebook so that you could read the chapter that you need to be able to read through in order to do this step by step. This is also linked in modules in the week 4 section. So if I click Download All, it's going to download here to the bottom of my screen as separate files. Now, if I want to see where those went, I can click a little arrow next to one of those and choose Show in Folder. And I can see they all went into my Downloads folder. Now, I don't need all of those there. I can leave those in the Downloads folder. If I want to have all of the things that I download in a folder that I can easily go back and find, you might want to create a folder someplace else and move those to that location. So I had created on the desktop, so let me go here, so I don't want to lose sight of these files. I'm going to scroll down here where I see desktop with an arrow. And so when I click the little arrow, I haven't changed what I see on the right-hand side, but on the left-hand side, I can see the folders that I have created. And there's the MAB 60 homework folder. So I'm going to select these 3 files. You can hold down the Control key and select them individually, or you can hold down the Shift key and click on the 3rd one. Shift click selects everything from A to B that you have selected in that area. Control click allows you to select non-adjacent files. So with these 3 selected, I'm going to drag them over to the MAB 60 homework folder. Now remember, that's not necessary. If I go now and click on this, I can see all of the files I downloaded are in that location. So again, that's not necessary, but you can do it. Now, in the textbook, if you were reading through the book, it's going to give you a little download arrow that says Start Word, then click Blank Document. The blank document is actually this WD1-1 file. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. I've downloaded it from SAM. I take that back. That's the wrong file. So the correct file to open is the new Microsoft Word document. That's a blank document. So I will open that one up. So unfortunately, there's nothing in the book that tells you to open the one titled New Microsoft Word document and your first and last name, but I know that this project is supposed to start with a blank document, and the other document had data in it already. So once it's open, I'm going to click on Enable Editing. And you'll notice right now I don't see everything on my ribbon. You can change the settings for the ribbon if you click on. If you don't see your ribbon, there is a little icon here that lets you adjust settings for your ribbon. So I've set it to show tabs and commands. If it was set to auto hide the ribbon, you would not see that information, and you'd have to go back to this and show tabs and commands. So if you have any issues with not being able to see the ribbon, it's nice to have the ribbon on screen when you're learning and wanting to be more familiar with the icons on the different ribbon tabs. So here I am. Now in the textbook, if you were reading through, it's telling you to identify different parts of the window. For example, up here, this is called the Quick Access Toolbar. It lets me get quick access to specific commands that I might want to use frequently, like saving. This one is something else that I did earlier. I can click this little drop-down arrow, and you can see that the items that have a check mark are available on the Quick Access Toolbar. Undo and redo are checked, but they're not available to me right now because I haven't done anything to undo, and the redo button is not even showing up because I haven't undone anything. So sometimes you won't see those icons for those actions on the Quick Access Toolbar until you have performed some of those. But there's things that you can add if you wanted to quickly go to Print Preview and Print without having to go to File first. If you want to be able to quickly start new documents without having to go to File first, there's other options here on the Quick Access Toolbar. The title bar has the name of your document. We haven't changed the name yet. We'll do that later in a step, and the name of the application. There's a search box. There's information here if you're using OneDrive to store things. You can sign into your account so that it can easily save to your cloud storage area. There's the ribbon display options that I went over. You have your minimize button, your restore down. That's because my window is already maximized. If I restore down, it's in a smaller size, which I can resize manually using the double-headed arrows. Double-headed arrows always mean resize in every application. Now the restore down button has changed to the maximize button to fill the screen, and of course close. So then below that you have the ribbon. The ribbon actually starts with the Home tab. That's what I'm viewing, and I can move along by clicking on those names to go to different ribbon tabs. Also, if your mouse is inside the ribbon and you roll your mouse wheel, it will also move to different ribbon tabs. But you'll notice if I try to roll all the way to File, I can't do that because File is not really part of the ribbon. File is a link to what we call Backstage View. So when I click on that, I see more information on saving it as a PDF, exporting it, other options that might be available to me for Word down here at the very bottom. And I can go back to the document by clicking the arrow at the very top left side of the screen. So you will get to be familiar with the different ribbon tabs and also the commands and the groupings on those tabs. For example, on the Home ribbon, we have a group called Font, and all of the commands that are within the Font group are related to font. There's a little arrow and box in the bottom right corner. That's because all the options that have to do with font can't fit in this ribbon. So this is what we call a dialog box launcher. And when I click on that, I can launch a dialog box that gives me other options. For example, if I'm trying to write H2O and I want to put the 2 in subscript, or I want to put everything in small caps where lowercase letters appear as smaller capital letters. Those are some options that you have here in the dialog box that you don't have here on the ribbon. So anywhere you see that little box with an arrow, that's a dialog box launcher that gives you more options. Now I will point out that I've got a couple of other things that you may not see on your computer. I have signed up for something called Grammarly. that gives me some resources to spell check and check my document. I also have Adobe Creative Design, and I've got an Acrobat tab here. So these are some other things that I have added to those add-ons to Word that you may not see on your computer. Okay, so I'd like for you to look at the book and go through. As I go through the exercise, I certainly will bring up things, but I don't want to make this video too long. But the textbook points out a lot of the things that you should be learning about the screen and how to navigate in the document. So starting with this actual data entry, I'm getting to the page where I'm actually going to start typing, and it tells me to type in JCL Talent and press enter twice. Now, it may be hard for you to see on the screen, so I'm going to increase my zoom. Down in the bottom right corner, we have the zoom slider, and there's a little bar that I can drag back and forth, or I can click the little minus sign to reduce the size, or I can click the plus sign to increase the size. Now, there is something called text width. If I go to the View tab, and I see here in the zoom section, I don't have text width here. You'll notice if I do page width, it does make it a lot larger for me because I can now see the left edge and the right edge of the sheet of paper. And this represents the 1-inch margin. That's the default. In Microsoft Word, the default margins are 1 inch top and bottom and 1 inch left and right. So this does make it a lot larger. Text width would mean I want to change it so I don't see the margin space. So that would make it even bigger than this. Now, if I click here and click on 100%, you can see it takes me there. If I click on zoom, that opens up a dialog box where I can choose text width, click OK. That's not what I thought I was going to do. Oh, no, I need to scroll over a little bit. So it is text width, but I have to scroll to get it in the right position. So I'm going to go back to page width because I think it'll be easy for you to read from there. So you'll notice after I typed JCL Talent and I pressed enter twice, it moved down quite a bit. Let me go back to the Home tab, and I'm going to turn on the Show Hide button. It looks like a paragraph symbol or a backward P. And so you can see I pressed enter, and so those represent the end of a paragraph, where I've pressed the enter key to end a paragraph. Now you'll see there's a lot of space in between here, and that's because of the default line spacing between paragraphs. We'll talk about that later on, but you can see that the next line is not right underneath JCL Talent, and that is a default setting in Microsoft Word. Okay, so I will continue on typing in. They want us to type in 2 and a colon, and then press the tab key twice. Now, because I have the Show Hide button turned on, remember this symbol here, the tab key is represented by an arrow. If I follow my eye up to the ruler, you can see that my insertion point is positioned at 1 inch. If I backspace and I follow my eye up here, it's at the ½ inch mark. So the default tab settings are every ½ inch. That can be changed. You can change what the defaults are for the document, but you can also set tabs at specific positions. So you're not having to press tab multiple times. For example, if I wanted to get to the 2-inch mark or 2 1/4, I wouldn't be able to, obviously, pressing tab if it's set at every ½ inch. But I could set a tab at 2 1/4 and skip straight to that position. So here we're going to type in JCL Managers and then press enter. And then I'm going to type in from : press tab 2 times. Okay, so I'm just following along with the textbook, typing in the information that's presented in the book. After creative meeting, I'm prompted to press enter 2 times. So it says, if you see any red or blue wavy underlines, I don't see any here. I'm surprised I'm not seeing anything with Dawn LaPointe because that name may not be in the dictionary, that's the word dictionary. But red wavy underlines represent spelling errors, and blue wavy underlines represent grammatical errors. So we will see those, but we're going to talk about performing a spell and grammar check on the document when we're finished with it. Okay, so now in this position, they want me to type in a sentence, so I'll go ahead and type that in. Remember, if you're following along with me, you might want to have your book open as well because I'm going to go through this. You can pause when you need more time to finish the typing. I'm going to just keep moving. Okay. Now it says when I get to the end of this sentence, press the space bar. It tells you everything to do in the step-by-step exercises. The main thing you want to do is make sure you don't miss any steps. So if you're doing an assignment and you have to stop, maybe mark in your book where you're stopping so it's easy for you to come back. Sometimes I'll even type in the document what page I'm on and what step number I'm on so that I have it in the document and then delete that when I want to pick back up where I left off. So after typing in the space bar, it points out in the book that, and I should have pointed this out as soon as I pressed the space bar, but after I typed 18th, 18th, as soon as I pressed the space bar to type in the word of, it created TH in superscript. It raised it up. That's a default setting in Microsoft Word. If you didn't want it like that, you can immediately undo right after that occurred. So I should have brought that to your attention that right after I pressed the space button, if I had gone to the undo button at the top of my screen, I would have seen undo autocorrect, and I could have put the TH back on the same line as the rest of the text. So there's a lot of things that Word automatically does. In fact, there's some simple words that that are frequently mistyped that Word will correct for you without you even looking at the screen as soon as you press space or enter. Okay, continuing on, I'll finish typing this out. Okay, so I made a little typo there, so this is a good example. This wasn't mistyped in the textbook. I left an E out in heading. So there's an example of the red wavy underline. Now I could leave it and wait till I finish the whole thing and then do a full spelling and grammar check. But the red wavy line gives you an opportunity to do, check spelling as you type. If you place your mouse over the word and you right click, then it gives you an option for spelling here and is giving you a suggestion. Oh, did you mean heading? And so I'll click on that, and now it corrected that, and the red wavy line went away. Something else I wanted to show you is the autocorrect feature with months or days of the week. So I deleted the word September because I want to show you if I type space and then capital SEPT, I get a autocomplete option that says, please press enter to insert if I want to put in the word September. So if I just press the enter key, it will complete typing that out for me and I don't have to type the whole thing. That happens with certain words, certainly with the months and days. So I'll continue typing the rest of this document. Okay, after this, you'll notice there's Anna Jokars. That's the name that's entered in the book. I'm not going to correct that right now. I'll wait later and finish that one or accept that name when we do a full spell and grammar check. So at the end of this, it says position the I-beam, that's what your mouse looks like when you're moving it around in the document space. Notice when I come out here in the margin, I get an arrow. So this is an area where I can select an entire line of text with using the margin. But if I'm within the margins in the document area, my mouse looks like a capital I, and we call that an I-beam. So it says position the I pointer after 4, but before the space in the last sentence of the first paragraph. So in the last sentence of the first paragraph, here's the word 4. It says position it after 4, but before the space. So that's what's helpful in having the show hide button turned on, because I can get my click right in front of that space. And then it says to press backspace 3 times to get rid of the word for, and then to type in to launch in. Okay. Now we could have also highlighted the word for and pressed the delete key. Well, the word for and this one of the spaces either before or after that word in order to edit that text. Now we're going to move the insertion point before the word staff in the first sentence. And this time it says press the delete key 6 times. So what we're doing is getting rid of the word staff. So the difference between what we just did is backspace deletes backwards. The delete key deletes forward or to the right of the insertion point. So if I use my delete key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm getting rid of the word and then the extra space. So before continuing on with this document, the next step in the chapter in the book is to save the document. Now, if this had been a brand new blank document that had never been saved before, if I click the save icon up here on the quick access toolbar, it's supposed to look like a little floppy disk, which I can't believe they haven't changed this icon, because many of you probably have never even seen one of these disks before because they haven't been used in so many years. But if I click on it, nothing happened. That's because this document had already been created, saved with this name. I downloaded it on my computer, and all I am doing by clicking the save icon is saving the changes that I've made since I downloaded it. So if I need to create a new name for this, which is required for this assignment, I'm going to have to go to File to go into Backstage View and choose Save As. Now you'll notice here at the top, it's showing me that desktop MAB60 folder. So it's saving it in the same location that the original file was in. That's the reason why I went ahead and copied everything to that folder. If I had left it in the downloads, maybe I want to leave it there, but I might want to then click on Browse and go and find a new location, someplace that I can remember to go back and find that file when it's time to upload it. So if I click right here where the file name is, the textbook says to call it IL_WD_1_memo. Now it's not asking me to add my file name, my name, first and last to that at all. In fact, if I just quickly go back to Cengage here, you can see here it's expecting the file name to be all of that, but with underscore first name and last name. So that is unfortunately one of the downfalls. I think it might let you go ahead and upload it without your name, but just be aware that all of the files that upload into SAM for grading end with underscore your first name and last name as it appears in SAM. So we can try it without putting the last name in. Let me go back here. I won't put my name and see if it works, because this is what it tells you to save it in as the book. I'm sorry, in the textbook, it doesn't ask you to add your name. And so we'll see if it works without your name. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And then we can continue on with the exercise. So it says place the space bar of the insertion point before conference in the first sentence. So here is the word conference. So I'll click right in front of conference, and they want us to add large space. And then if we wanted to save that change, now we can just click the little save icon and we've saved the changes that we just made. You'll notice that the name has changed at the top now. It doesn't have that original name that we downloaded from SAM. So remember, as you're going through the textbook, there's a lot of information about the Save As dialog box. You can read through that. I'm showing you some things as I go along here, but there's a lot of extra information. The next section is about selecting text. Now, why do we select text? We select existing text because we either want to format it or we want to remove it. So we want to edit the document in some way, and in order to edit existing text, we need to select it first. Now, if it was something that I wanted to do to the entire document, let's say I wanted to change the entire document's font, I can use the keyboard shortcut Control-A, A for all, in order to select all of the text. I'll deselect by clicking in any empty space. If I want to select an entire line of text, I could bring my mouse in what we call the selection bar. That's in the margin space to the left. And when you get an arrow pointing towards a line, you could simply click. Now, if I wanted to select several lines, I could hold my mouse button down and drag through those lines. If you want to select a single word, you can double-click on a word. If you want to select an entire paragraph, you can triple-click on the paragraph. Click, click, click. If you want to select a single sentence, you can't have anything selected first, so I'm going to deselect. And if I hold down my Control key and click, it wants to select a sentence. Now, I did it right here because I want you to notice that, why did it end here? Well, it sees this period at the end of 3 p.m. and thinks that's the end of the sentence. So it didn't select it correctly. If I try to hold down my Control key and click on the next sentence, nothing happens because this technique only works if nothing is selected. So let me click in the empty space, and now I'll hold down Control and click on this sentence. So that time it did it correctly. So just know that sometimes these techniques don't work exactly right. Let me deselect and Control click on this sentence that begins with prior to. And you can see that that continued down beyond that line to get to the end of that sentence. Now there is another way to select all without using Control-A. If you place your mouse in the selection bar in the left margin and you triple click, 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 it will select everything in the document. Another little trick is, let's say I want to select everything from right here in front of the word the to the end of the document. I can hold down Control and Shift and press the down arrow key on my keyboard, and you can see that selected that paragraph, and then I can do it again to the next paragraph. So Control Shift and the down arrow will take you to the end of each paragraph. Another way is Control Shift and the end key, not the letter N, E-N-D, will automatically take you all the way to the end of the document. So those are some tips. Please go through the textbook. There's a little graphic that shows you some quick tips on how to select different parts of your document. So I mentioned that one reason why you might be selecting text is to modify it or make some changes. So for example, if I don't want this to say JCL talent, I want it to, right here in the to, excuse me. Instead of JCL managers, if I wanted to say creative staff. So if I drag across JCL managers to highlight it, it's not necessary for me to press my delete key first, because if some text is selected and I start typing, it will automatically replace the selected text. Same is true here. If I want to put in my first and last name, if I double click on Dawn, I'm only going to select that one name, and I could type in my first name, then double click on LaPointe and type my last name. But I'm just going to drag across all of that and start typing in my first and last name. Now in the textbook, they want you to change the regarding line. Instead of a creative meeting, you wanted to say recruitment tips web page. In the book, it says to select that entire line and retype the whole thing, RE:, tab. But that's not necessary. I mean, you could follow, if you're following along the book and that's what it's telling you to do, it's just showing you other ways to replace text by selecting it. So here I'll highlight that information and I will type in recruitment tips webpage. So we've used selecting text to replace the text, but we can also use selecting text to delete it. Earlier, we used the backspace or delete key. So I want to delete the sentence, Anna Jokars has been hired to draft content. With nothing selected, I'm going to use the technique Control-Click to select that entire sentence. You'll notice it also selected the space after. So when I press the delete key on my keyboard, there's not a space at the beginning of this paragraph. We're now going to add on at the end of this document by clicking at the end of the paragraph, the second paragraph. The book doesn't mention to press space, but we should. There are some times when when Word can automatically put in spaces between sentences when we're cutting and pasting things. But when you're just typing in, you'll want to put a space there before you start typing. So I'll type in www.w3.org space for more information. As soon as I pressed the space key, it automatically changed that to a hyperlink to be able to navigate to that web page if it's a real web page. When you place your mouse on top of that, you can see instructions to hold down the control key and click the link in order to go to that website. Now, if I'm sending this to someone digitally, I might want to give them the access to quickly click on the link and go to that. But if I'm printing this out for someone, maybe I don't want it to appear in the hyperlink format since they can't click on a sheet of paper. You can right-click on that, anywhere on that hyperlinked text, and choose Remove Hyperlink from this shortcut menu. Right-clicking on things opens shortcut menus, and what you get in the shortcut menu will vary depending on what you right-click on. So you don't have to select all of it to remove the hyperlink, just right-click anywhere on that hyperlink. The next step in the exercise is about formatting text, and we're going to either use the ribbon or what's called the mini toolbar. So formatting has to do with the appearance of the text, the font, the color, the paragraph spacing, styles. There are a lot of different attributes that are related to the term formatting when we're talking about Word documents. So the first thing we're going to do is select JCL Talent at the very top. I'm just going to use the selection bar. Make sure if your mouse is not pointing towards the text, click somewhere in the paragraph, in the selection bar or the margin area first. That will move the arrow to face that text, and then I can click. Now, as soon as I click on it, you can see this little mini toolbar pops up that gives me some quick options instead of having to go up into the ribbon. So on the mini toolbar, if I wanted to increase the font size, this says to use the font increase button 6 times. So if I click this little button, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it takes it from 11 point to 22 point. Now, I might use this button if I'm only going to go up a couple. If I'm going to go that many times, I would have clicked the down arrow and just gone to 22. But this will increase the font and decrease the font. I'll point out that in the little screen tip, when I point to it, it says decrease font, and then in parentheses, I see Control plus Shift plus the less than symbol. For this one, Control plus Shift plus the greater than symbol. So that's a way to use your keyboard, holding down both Control and Shift and pressing the greater than or less than symbol to increase or decrease the font size. In addition to increasing the font size, we want to make it bold. So I'm going to use the mini toolbar here to make it bold. And I'm also going to italicize it and underline it. So I've chosen all of those options. Next, I'm going to center align it. So you'll see that I don't have an alignment option here on my mini toolbar. I have to go up into the paragraph group on the home ribbon and find the center alignment option. The keyboard shortcut is shown in the screen tip. It's Control E. So a lot of times folks often are centering paragraphs. Control L is for left align, Control R is for right align. Those are good to memorize when you use those a lot. So now with all of that centered and bold and underlined and italicized, I want to make it all in uppercase and I don't want to have to type it again. So in the font group on my home ribbon, I have a change case button. It looks like a capital A with a little a next to it. I'll click on that and I can say make this all uppercase. So now I've quickly made that uppercase. Next it says click the blank line between the RE line and the body text. So that's this blank line right here. This is why it's so helpful to have the show hide button turned on, because I can see here's a paragraph right here. I'll click right here and it wants us to add a border to separate the upper part of this memo with the paragraph. So in the paragraph group, there's a button that's for borders. And it has a little window pane icon on it. Right now I can see little dotted lines except on the bottom. That happens to be a bottom border. But if I wasn't sure, I could click the drop down arrow and choose bottom border. And you can see that paragraph now has a bottom border going the full length between the left and right margins. So borders are based on paragraphs. There are other ways to apply borders to just specific text. Or especially if I've indented text and I don't want it to go all the way from the left to the right. We'll look at that later in another exercise. Okay, so now I'm going to save the changes that I've made. I'll just click my little save icon or use the shortcut Control S. It lets me know it saved it to the PC up there in the title bar. Now in the document, in the textbook, it says to print this. Obviously, we don't need to print this out for our assignments, but just so you know how to print, if you go to File and you choose Print, all of the options are here. So if I wanted to print multiple copies, I could change that there. If I work in an office that has multiple printers, I can choose the different printers that are connected here. If I want to print all the pages, otherwise I can print certain pages. If I want to print double-sided documents, I can choose that option to print on both sides. Okay. Collated means if I have multiple pages, if let's say I have a 5-page document and I need to print 5 copies, do I want them to come out 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that's helpful to know if you want them collated. The orientation, the paper size, the margins, all of these were set by the defaults, but you can change those. And here, 1 page per sheet. If I needed to try to get more on the page, then you have some options for that as well. Okay. So if I were to click the print icon, it would go and be sent to this printer here at my house. I'm going to go click the arrow and go back into the document. So that is the end of this particular document. In the textbook, it tells you to, after you've saved it, to go to the File tab and click Close. This allows you to only close this document but leave Word open. So you can see Microsoft Word is still open. The next step in the book is titled View and Navigate a Document. So now we're going to use that document that was already created. It tells you to locate and open ILWD 1-1. Now, one thing in the book, it does not have the little SAM upload icon, so we already know that we saw that file. I'm going to go to my Mab 60 homework folder. There's the WD 1-1 document. It already has your name attached to it, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. Okay, so I'm going to click Enable Editing on this document that I just opened, and then the exercise instructs you to save as and give it a new name. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Now, I opened it from where I copied it in the Mab 60 folder, so that's where I want it. It says to save it as ILWD_1_ tip sheet. So I'm going to click at the end of this and backspace. And type it in as it appears. Remember, I'm going to try this without adding the names because that's how they want you to follow along in the textbook, and then I'll show you how to fix it if this doesn't work when we upload it to SAM. So I'll click Save, and I want to just double check that name, ILWD1 tip sheet. Okay. So the next thing is it says to drag this vertical scroll box down until the bottom of the document is visible in your document window. So you can see based on the size of my zoom, it's set at 100%, I can't see everything. There's a bar on the right-hand side that if you place your mouse on it and press and hold your mouse button down, you can drag down in order to see that. Other ways that you can do this is by clicking the down arrow at the bottom of that. That will move it a little bit more slowly, line by line. Same is true with the up arrow. You can also click inside the gray space above or below the scroll bar, the vertical scroll bar, in order to see the rest of your document. Now they want us to change how we're seeing it. We already did that in the last exercise, but just to review, if I go to first, we're going to replace, scroll up to the top. No, let's change the zoom first. We'll go to View, and let's try Page Width. That makes it a lot larger. In the exercise, it also says try the zoom button and type in 200% just to see what that's like. So if you type in 200 and click OK, it makes it a little bit bigger. So scrolling down to the last paragraph here, it says contact. We're going to replace your name with your actual name. Now you'll notice as I drag across, sometimes you'll automatically get the extra space after. Just be mindful of that in case you need to retype the space. If you did select it, just type that in. Otherwise, you can just pull your mouse back while you're selecting and type in your name. Okay. Next thing they want us to do is look at the document properties. This is something that you can look up when you have files stored on your in a folder. You can right-click and look at the properties. There are keywords you can ask. So if somebody was searching for a file, it might be found by the keywords that you added in the document properties. I'm going to go to the File tab. And here I'm in Backstage View. I'm going to go to Info. And then over here on the right-hand side, I see properties. So I can see 2020 Cengage Learning because that's who created this file. I can see that I modified it. My name is there. How much time I've been on here. Well, that's not true because I've been on it for a long time. The size of the file, how many pages it is, how many words it is. So they want us to add a title for this. So I'm going to click on, oh, here we go, add a title. So I'll click in the box right there, and they want us to type tips. And then click anywhere outside of that box. So we've named that now. And so if somebody was searching for this, maybe at work in our system, people could search for files and that would pop up with that. Or if you forgot the name and you're searching, of course, if the name tip is in the file name, it would find it that way too if you were searching for it. I just want to point out if I click show all properties, there's some additional things that might be appear here. So subject, categories, other things that you can click in and add. Now I'm going to click the back button to go back into the document. Remember, when you're reading through the textbook, there's a lot of additional little tips. I'm trying to bring them up as I go through here, but also being mindful of how long this video is. So definitely look through the textbook. That's the benefit of going through the exercise. The next thing is about cutting and pasting. Okay? So cutting and pasting are specific tools that place information in a holding place in order for you to paste it, okay? As opposed to using a technique called drag and drop that does allow you to move things. It does not use what's called the clipboard. So I'm going to go back to the home ribbon because our clipboard group is here. So the first thing that they want us to do is select the text, tips for job seekers, including the paragraph mark after it. So I'm going to find that information here at the top. Now, why do I want to make sure that I'm selecting the paragraph after it? Well, if I cut tips for job seekers and I don't include that paragraph mark, I'm going to end up with two big paragraphs here from this question and this paragraph below. So if I'm going to cut this to move it in another location, I want to include that paragraph symbol as well. So now I'm going to use the cut command. In the clipboard group, it looks like a pair of scissors. The keyboard shortcut is Control X. So that's something you might already know because it's a common command and a very commonly used keyboard shortcut. So as soon as I click the cut button, it disappears, including the entire paragraph symbol at the end. So that's why I'm not left with an extra blank paragraph. Now, where did it go? Well, it was placed on the clipboard. And the clipboard can hold up to 24 items that have either been cut or copied. And then I can go and manage all of those things on the clipboard if I open up the clipboard task pane. Now here it says to place the insertion point immediately before RU here in the heading. So I'm going to click and place my insertion point right before that. And then I'm going to press the Enter key to create a new blank paragraph there. And then I'm going to place my insertion point at that blank paragraph mark that I just created. So now, if I want to paste what's on the clipboard, all I have to do is click on the little clipboard icon here. Now, this is a two-sided button. The top will automatically place what was the last thing placed on the clipboard. The bottom half, if I click on it, gives me some other options for pasting. So it's not necessary to click the bottom half if I know I want to paste the last thing. So I'll just click on that little clipboard icon, and you can see that the reason why I have an extra blank paragraph here is because what I pasted already included an Enter key or a paragraph symbol. So I'm left with two. It didn't place it right in front of that symbol. So this is something that you'll get used to as you're cutting and pasting things. It's not that big of a deal if you realize, oh, I have an extra paragraph I don't need, delete it. Oh, I need an extra paragraph, enter. So, but it's nice to understand when you are selecting text, if you select the paragraph symbol, you are going to cut that or paste that if it's included on the clipboard. Now, next thing they want us to do is to delete the paragraph below the question, are you emotionally intelligent in the workplace? So you can either go into the selection bar and select that. If you click your insertion point right in front of it, you can press the delete key. If you click below it, which we can't get behind it because there's nothing behind it. This is the end of the paragraph. But you could place your insertion point in front of emotional and backspace. I'm just going to use the selection bar to click so you can see that I've selected that paragraph, and I'm going to press the delete key to remove it. So we cut and pasted text using the commands. In fact, if I open the clipboard task pane by clicking the little launcher in the bottom right corner of clipboard, you can see there's that tips for job seekers. It will stay there as long as I have this document open in case I wanted to paste it again. Now, if I have copied or cut other items, they'll be added to the list. And remember, the clipboard little icon paste the last thing placed on the clipboard. If I need to go back to something else, I have to open up this dialog box or this panel in order to choose something that I had cut or copied earlier. I'm going to close that for a moment because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move something instead of cutting it and pasting it. And we're going to move it using the drag and drop technique. So I'm going to select the line, be aware of your own emotions, just by clicking to the left in the selection bar. And I want to move this so that this item comes before control how you express emotions. So with this paragraph, be aware of your own emotions selected. I now want to move it in front of control how you express emotions above this paragraph. So with the text selected, I'm going to place my mouse anywhere inside the selected text so you see a white block arrow. I'm going to press and hold my mouse button down and start to drag my mouse and see a bar appear in different places. I'm going to place the bar in front of this paragraph. Now remember, I selected not only the text, but the paragraph symbol. So it's not going to be right in front of C. When I released my mouse, it placed it there, but the paragraph symbol created a new line. That's the reason why it's not right next to the word control. If I open up the clipboard task pane again, you'll notice that that text, be aware of your emotions, is not on there. I did not cut it and paste it. I dragged it and dropped it, so it doesn't go on the clipboard task pane. The next thing is about copying and pasting. The same is true for cutting and pasting. I can either use the commands, copy and paste, or I can use a drag and drop technique to copy. The first thing we're going to do is select the words more detailed in the heading. You'll need to scroll down. So in the heading for more detailed information, I want to select the text more detailed. So I'm going to drag my mouse over that. You'll notice that it automatically included the space as I drag over, because as you drag over words, first it drags over letter by letter, but once you skip over to words, Word believes that you are selecting word by word, so it'll quickly jump over the entire next word and the space after. You can also select text using your shift key and the arrow. So if you were trying to select something very tiny and it's hard to drag over it, maybe one letter, that's another option that's in your textbook on different ways to select text. Okay, so with this text selected, I want to copy it. So in the clipboard group, the copy icon looks like 2 sheets of paper. The shortcut is Control-C. So when you click on it, I've now added it to the clipboard task pane. If I were to open that, you can see I've now added that, and it's at the top of the list, which means if I click the paste button, that's what will be pasted, the last item added. Now I'm going to place the insertion point before information in the first sentence of the final paragraph. So here's the final paragraph, and I'll click right in front of the word information. And now if I were to click the paste button at the top here, you'll notice it pasted it in with exactly the same formatting that I copied it in. So if I click the paste options button and I choose keep text only, let me undo that. Let's see, undo. I'll click my undo button to undo that. So now I'll click the little icon underneath paste and choose text only. Then it puts it in the same formatting of this paragraph, not in the bold and larger size that I saw that I copied it from. Okay. So I will save my changes again and move on to the next part of the assignment, which is formatting with fonts. So the default font in our current version of Word is Calibri 11 point. Old versions of Word, it was Times New Roman. And Times New Roman is an example of what we call a serif font. It has little hooks or lines added to it, while Calibri is a sans serif font. It doesn't have those. It used to be thought that serif fonts, which let me just change this for a moment. I'll change it to Times New Roman. You can start typing in a font name. So you see how there's little hooks on the end, on the bottom of the L, on the top, and on the bottom and top of the I there. I'm going to click undo. So there used to be a thought that serif fonts made it easier on the reader's eye to read a lot of words together. Those little hooks or serifs helped bring letters together to form words and words together to form sentences, and it was easier on the eye. Some studies have shown that that's not necessary, and so that's why they've changed this default font now to Calibri, which is a sans serif font. But there are many font choices available to you, and they may vary depending on your computer and printer that you have available. So we're going to select Tips for job seekers. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top and select that line. I'm going to click on the little drop-down arrow next to the font group, and I'm going to look for Berlin Sans FB Demi. Now I can scroll through, they're in alphabetical order under the heading All Fonts, or I can start typing Berlin, and it will take me to that in the alphabet here, listing, and then I can find Berlin Sans FB Demi and choose that option. I'm also going to change the font size. So I'm going to change this to 18. Okay. And next I'm going to select, are you emotionally intelligent in the workplace? Select that line. And I want to change that also to Berlin Sans FB Demi. So this time when I click the drop down arrow, you can see recently used fonts. I can simply select it from there. So anything that I've used recently will appear at the top of the list. I also want to change the font size to 22 point. So I will click the little arrow next to 12 and quickly jump to 22 point. And you can see that that makes this have to wrap to a second line. So it's very, very large. That may be too large for what I want because that doesn't really look that great here on my document. But just continuing with the steps, the next thing I'm going to do is change the font color. So this is the font color button, says that when I point to it. I'm going to click, if I were to click here, it would automatically change it to that red that's on the little swatch underneath the color, or the A. If I click the arrow next to it, I see theme colors. Now we can create different themes or use a lot of built-in themes in Word. These are the default themes that we are seeing, theme colors, and then you have a whole group of standard colors. Now it says to choose blue accent 1. So as I point to these, you can see that says blue-gray. This one says blue accent 1. If I go down, I see blue accent 1, lighter 80%, all the way down to blue accent 1, darker 50%. So if you have an assignment that has you changing color, you want to be very careful. This is one of the common errors that you'll see in the assignments when a student chooses the wrong color. So I'll choose blue accent 1, and it changes that color. Next thing it says, they want us to select the heading, the importance of emotional intelligence. So I'll scroll down here and select that line. And this time, instead of going up to the ribbon, I'm going to use the mini toolbar. So I'm going to change the font by clicking the little arrow next to the font here. I still see recently used, so I'll change it to that Berlin Sans FB Demi. I want to change the font size to 14 point. And then I'm going to click on the A here, which you'll notice now it doesn't have the red swatch underneath. It has the last color that I selected. So I don't have to remember which color I used before. It's now available to me just by clicking on the A. I don't have to click the down arrow. Now it says repeat that, what we just did to make it 14 point Berlin Sans Demi Blue to the heading How to Build Emotional Intelligence. So I'll select that. Now there's another way to do this much faster, but I'm following along with the instructions in the book this time. So if you don't see the mini toolbar, deselect and select again, because what happens is if you move your mouse too far away and the mini toolbar disappears, then you will only be able to get it to reappear if you either right click on the text and select show mini toolbar, which let me show you. Okay, so let's say I move my mouse away and that goes away. If I right click, I can choose, oh, I thought there was an option to show the mini toolbar. There's not. So, oh yes, here it is. I'm also getting the shortcut menu though, but right clicking will bring the mini toolbar back up. So I'll click here and I'm going to choose the Berlin Sans. But the mini toolbar went away. So let me select again and choose the 14 point and the blue color. Okay? And then they also want us to apply that for more detailed information. So I'll select that and change the font, the size, and the color. Berlin Sans FD Demi 14 point, and that same blue. Okay. I'll save my changes. Now, everybody, I'm saving as I go along. You don't have to do that. The program will automatically save automatically based on the options or the default options set up for Word. I think it's every 10 minutes. I'll have to double check that. But it's a good idea to save periodically. If your computer crashed, you lost power, it will open up in Word to whatever was available at the last save. So that's why it's a good idea to save periodically. Next thing we're going to do is talk about, oh, it looks like I missed a step there. Okay, so one of the things we did is we changed this "Are you emotionally intelligent?" to a very large size, forcing it to wrap around. But we like the big size font, but we're going to change our margins to try to get it to fit on one line. So remember, the default margins in Word is 1 inch top and bottom, 1 inch left and right. To adjust the margins, we can go to the Layout tab, and then here we can go and select margins. And there are some default options here, like narrow with the 1/2 inch all the way around, or wide. But we can go down and select specific margin settings that we want by going to Custom Margins and opening up a dialog box. We want the top margin to be 0.6. So I'm going to click the little down arrow here next to the top margin until I get 0.6. I also want the bottom to be 0.6. So I'll click the down arrow until I get 0.6 for the bottom. We want the left and right to also be 0.6. So I'll change that. And you can press your tab key to move from box to box and type in 0.6, or you can use the little arrows to adjust them. Okay. I should mention that the gutter and the gutter position, if you were going to have a document bound, like let's say you're doing a report and then you're going to have some binding put on the left-hand margin, and you don't want the binding taking up part of your left margin, let's say your binding takes up a 1/2 inch, you can add that so that the left margin actually begins a 1/2 inch from the left edge of the sheet of paper. That's for binding, and you can change the gutter position from left to top if you are going to have it bound on the top of the document. Okay, so I've changed all of those margins. I'll click OK. And so if I scroll up, you can see now with those new smaller margins, that line does fit on one line. Okay. Now we're going to place the insertion point in the blank paragraph under Tips for Job Seekers right here at the top. And we're going to press the delete key to get rid of that extra space. Okay. Then we're going to place the insertion point in Tips for Job Seekers. So I'll place it anywhere in that area. So with your insertion point anywhere on this paragraph, if I want to make modifications to the paragraph formatting, it's not necessary to select all of the text as long as your insertion point is somewhere in that paragraph. The only reason why I would need to select paragraphs for changing paragraph formatting if I'm formatting more than one paragraph. If you're selecting or formatting text, you have to make sure you're selecting all of the text. But for paragraph formatting, just as long as your insertion point is somewhere in that paragraph, that's fine. So what we're going to do is adjust the spacing. So you can see here on the Layout tab, I do have spacing before and after. And the before, we want to add some additional space. So if I click the up arrow here, it will automatically go to 6. You'll see that some extra space is now between JCL Talent and Tips. If I go back, well, it's hard to see that. It's not much of a difference here. And then we're going to change the spacing after so that it's 30 points. So I'm going to click after. Now you can see it's going in increments here that are not just, 1, 2, 3. They're going in increments of 6. If I wanted 25 point, I could just type that in the box. So now I've added additional spacing after the paragraph. Notice there's no paragraph symbol here. The spacing has been added to this paragraph. See, when I select it, there's a lot of extra space there because that's part of the paragraph format. So I will save those changes and move on. Next is about adding bullets and numbering. So that's a nice thing when I have a list of information. I might want them either numbered or bulleted. And we're going to do that with the items under emotional intelligence in the workplace is your ability to, and then we're going to bullet those items. So I'm going to select the 3 lines after that. Oops, I started selecting the first one. So I don't want to select that emotional intelligence. Starting with be aware. Just if you're in the selection bar, you can just use your arrow to press and hold your mouse and drag down to select those 3 paragraphs. Now, I do have on my mini toolbar, I have the numbering button and the bullets button. They're also on the home ribbon. So if you went back to the home ribbon, you'll see those options here. The home ribbon also has an multi-level list. That gives you different options for creating outlines using either traditional Roman numerals or other icons. So if I click right on the numbering button, not on the arrow next to it, because that gives me some other options, just click right on the little button. And now it automatically numbered those 3 paragraphs. It also indented it because that is the default setup for numbered and bullet lists, to indent them from the paragraph. If for any reason you did not want them indented, you could use your decrease indent button here in the paragraph group on your home ribbon. I'm not going to do that because they're not asking us to do that. You'll also notice that there's less space between the paragraphs because the default formatting for numbered or bulleted items is to not have extra space. And sometimes I don't like that. Sometimes I do want space to be between those lines. So there are ways to change that. Next, I'm going to scroll down to find the heading, How to Build Emotional Intelligence. It says here are the strategies you can use to improve. I'm going to select those 4 paragraphs here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I also want to have those numbered. So in the paragraph group, I'm just going to click on the numbering button. Now you can see that that automatically numbered those. I'm going to undo that just to show the other option is if I click the down arrow next to the numbering button, I have some different styles. They want us to choose the left numbering style. So how do I find that? If I point to it, I can see here. Now you can see that if I point to this one, how far indented it is. And if I point to this one, it looks the same. Okay, but you can point to them and see how they'll look. We call this live preview just to see what it will look like. But if I want to choose an alignment by name, they are here in the numbering library. Okay, but that would have been the default anyway. Okay, now we're going to do a little editing and adding in another item. First, they want us to place the insertion point before the word times in the first sentence of the first numbered paragraph. So here's the first numbered paragraph. Here's the word times. I'll click to position my insertion point there and type in the word peak and add a space. Then they want us to place the insertion point before the word think in the second sentence of the paragraph. So here is the word think, the second sentence in that paragraph. And if I press the enter key, it now becomes item number 2. So if you are within a numbered list and you either insert an additional paragraph or you press enter between sentences in another numbered item, it will automatically add a new number and renumber the entire list. So that's a nice thing that you can do. Now, I'm going to click on the 1 in the list, and you'll notice when I click on the number 1, it highlights that number, but I also see all of the numbers highlighted. So if I click on the bold button, all of the numbers become bold. So why is that important to know? Well, if I drag over this text, you see I'm not selecting the numbers. So if I had selected this text, I'm not changing the numbers. So if I want to format the numbers alone, maybe I want the numbers to be a different color, then I can click on one of the numbers and I can format the numbers separately. The next part of the project is to insert a graphic at the top of the document. So I'm going to quickly get to the top by using the key combination Control Home. Control Home, oops, I did the wrong thing here. Control Home will take me to the very top of the document. And with my insertion point positioned at this spot, I'm going to go to the Insert tab and click on Pictures. And then where is the picture? Well, remember we downloaded a support file for this project. So I'm going to go to this device. It's going to open up a dialog box, and I'm going to navigate to that Map 60 homework folder that I put on the desktop. Notice that the other files aren't there. That's because it's looking for picture files, and this is the only picture file I have in that location. So don't panic if you don't see the other files that we put in or saved. So I'm going to open that support. You can either double click on it, or you can select it and click Insert. It'll insert the picture at the position of the insertion point. So this picture's default size is very, very large. But look, there's still enough room to fit JCL Talent Inc. to the right of that. So it's on the same line as that graphic. I want to resize this picture. So they want us to resize it so that the height is 2.5. Now, when you have a graphic selected, you'll notice I have a picture format ribbon that has appeared. This is called a contextual ribbon tab. It appears when you need to use that resource. So over here, if it wasn't selected, if the picture isn't selected, that ribbon tab goes away. When I select the picture, it comes back. Sometimes you might select the picture, but you're not on that tab. You might have to actually go and click on it. So over here, I have the height. I'm going to click in that box and type 2.5 and press Enter. And now I can see that the height has adjusted. Now you'll notice the width automatically adjusted as well. That doesn't always happen with every graphic. It just so happens that this graphic has the width to height ratio locked. If it were not locked, the width would have stayed the same and it would have distorted the picture. Here's a little quick tip. If you click the Size dialog box launcher, here is where you can make sure that the ratio is locked and it's any percentage changes that you make are relative to the original picture size. So if I wanted to make it 50% of its original size. So if this was not checked, I would have had a distorted picture because I would have only changed the height. Okay? So most pictures, that is already true. There are some types of graphics where that is not true. Okay? Now, you can also adjust picture sizes using the sizing handles. But remember, you never want to use the middle sizing handles on the top or bottom or left or right because you will distort the picture. Okay? The corners typically will allow you to keep the proportions of the picture, but not always. Sometimes there are graphics where the corners will still let you resize either just the height or just the width. Okay? So now that we've made that change, I want to change the position of this graphic. So there's some quick ways to do this using the picture format ribbon. You have an option for position or for wrapping text. So if I choose position, I have some options to put it in specific positions and allow the text to wrap around it. So I want this in the upper right corner. So I'm going to click this option to position in top right with square text wrapping. So when I select that, the picture is aligned with my right margin, but now I'm allowing any text to wrap around that so that I have better use of the space. Okay? So if I didn't want to allow text to wrap, there are other wrap text options here that let me change the way, like top and bottom, for example, would only allow text to be above or below this graphic. We can also format the picture with other types of effects. So with your picture selected, and make sure your picture format ribbon is available to you. There's a lot of things on this ribbon, which we will look at as we go through different exercises. But here, it wants us to choose one of the built-in picture styles. So here, I see some styles, and as I point to them, I actually get live preview. See, the picture is changing. This is called Simple Frame White. This one is called Beveled Matte White. This one is Metal Frame. If I want to see more, you can click the little single arrow to reveal different rows, or you can click the More arrow and then be able to see more options in a gallery. And so I want to choose the one called Shadow. So, you might think, well, which one is shadow? You have to point to them until you see the one in the exercise. They actually, I take that back. Maybe we're not using it. So I apologize. We're not using one of the picture styles. We're going to go straight to one of the picture effects. A lot of the styles incorporate borders, effects, and you can just quickly choose them here. But if I want to just apply a specific effect like a shadow, I can go to picture effects, come down to shadow, and we want to use an offset bottom right. So I'm going to go and find one that looks like it's probably on the bottom right. See, offset, bottom right, and I'll select that. So now that's added that shadow effect. Next thing I'm going to do is select tips for job seekers. So I'll select this paragraph here. I want to change the font color to green accent 6. So I'll click the little arrow next to the font color button. I'll go and find the first one that looks like green and confirm, yes, that's green accent 6. And select that color. And now they want me to deselect the text and to go to the View tab and choose the One Page button because I want to get a quick look at how this looks, what I call an aerial view. So that looks nice. I've got some nice bold text, different colors, a nice graphic, good utilization of the space on the page, and I'm happy with the results of that. So I'm just going to save my changes. And the last thing in this chapter is about applying a theme. So remember, the colors we chose are theme colors. I'm going to go ahead and make this page width again because we can see some different colors on here. So if I go to the Design tab and I click, first we're going to put a page border on there before we change the theme. So I have a, oh, I'm sorry, not on, yes, here we have a page borders button over here on the far right. Now there's another way to get to page borders. We can go into the borders dialog box from the home ribbon and clicking the border button and opening it. But they make it quick here. So if I click on page borders, it's going to automatically open up the borders and shading dialog box. And on the page border tab, I'm going to click on box. It shows me that it's going to apply this to the whole document. So when I click OK, and maybe I should go back to view one page, I see I have a border going around the entire page. Now in that dialog box, I could have chosen different line styles if I wanted a double line or a thick and a thin line, dashed line, dotted line. There's other options for your page borders. Now I'm going to go to the Design tab and click on the Themes button here. And I can see the one that is currently highlighted or shaded is Office. That's the default Office theme. We're going to change it to Organic. Now you'll notice even without clicking on it, or actually we're not going to choose it, we're going to just point to it first. You can see the colors changing on my screen because the organic theme has different colors. Just try it out by pointing to some other themes and you can see different colors appear based on the theme colors for that particular theme. We're going to find Vapor Trail. So they're in alphabetical order. So I'm going to drag down and point and click on Vapor Trail. So now I have changed it to that. Now here's something interesting. If I go to the home ribbon and I click the arrow next to the font color, they are now different theme colors based on the theme that I've selected. So the standard colors are still the same, but the theme colors have changed to meet that theme. Now you can create your own themes with colors that you like and be able to use your theme for documents that you create. So if I worked at a company and there were certain colors that we use in all of our documents in our company, I might want to create a theme unique for that and use the colors that we use in our letterhead and other information. Okay, now I've chosen that. Let me go back to the Design tab. But now I've decided, well, I do want a different color palette for this. Because one thing that is also true about themes is the font. So there might be different default fonts for the theme. So I'm going to go now and choose colors. And I want to choose blue. So there's lots of different options that have the word blue in it here, but I'm going to go with one just called blue. And so that gives me those colors. Now, if I go back to the home ribbon, I should have had us select this earlier. This font was actually different before. I know we changed a lot of this to Berlin Sans Demi, but the body text was different, and now it's Century Gothic. So themes not only have to do with colors, but they also have to do with the themes. See how it says Century Gothic before it said Calibri? Okay, so that's something else to be aware of. Okay, so now I'm going to save this document as well, and I'll go back to my page where I had downloaded this, and now I'm ready to go and browse to upload my completed files. So remember, I didn't put my name. Let me go to my MABS 60 homework folder. I didn't put my name at the end of the memo and the tip sheet. I'm going to select both of these. I just used the shift-click technique to select those two. And I'll click Open. And you see I'm getting an error. It says that the names don't match. So this is a good example of what will happen if I'm following along with the book and it tells me to save it, but in the book it didn't tell me to add my first and last name. So how can I fix that? Well, let me go here. I've got to close this file because I'm not going to do save as again. And now I'm going to go and navigate to my homework folder. And I just want to add my name to the end of memo and tip sheet. So what I'm going to do is right-click on this one named Memo, and then I'm going to choose Rename from the shortcut menu. Oops, got to select it. Right-click. I'm having some trouble with this one. So, oh, here we go. And then I'll click Rename, and that puts a box around it. I don't want to type everything, so I'm going to click at the end of that, add an underscore, and my first name and my last name with capitals. Okay, I'll press Enter to select that. Another way to rename is if you select one of the file names, you wait a second and you select it again. It'll automatically put it in rename mode. I'll click at the end and add underscore, my first name, last name. Okay. All right, so now I'll go back to the web and I'll try browsing to add those files again. I apologize for this. It's probably a good idea to look and see what the file names are supposed to be before you start that. Maybe jot it down or copy it to make sure that you've got the right file names. Now I'll open them. And this time it worked because I have the correct file names. So now I'm going to submit. It says the submission was successfully graded, and here I can look at my report and see how I did. So I'm going to click on the graded summary report. It opens it here in a Word document. There's actually two. See the memo and the tip sheet? I'll open the memo first. So here I am in the report for the first file that I uploaded called Memo. It says my score is a 97 out of 100. That's for both of the projects. So you can see as I go through here, what did I miss? And it looks like I missed some step with a bullet or number. It says the paragraph, be aware of your emotions. So if I went down and looked for that, because they give you an example, you see that's not in this exercise. So the report is showing me the score for both assignments, but I have to open the individual sheets to see a preview of what I did. See, there's no bullet for that. So if I go and open up the other Word document, which was the tip sheet, and I scroll down there, so there's a little comment here, and it's showing me something else. So perhaps I have something missing in that paragraph. I might have missed an editing step. I'd have to go back and look in the book for that step. But at a 97, I'm not worried about it. I mean, I don't know if this was, it's not supposed to be a bullet. Ah, I know what it is. I was supposed to change all of these from numbers to check marks. So instead of having numbered items, they were supposed to be using the bullet features, but making it check marks. Now I could do that right here, but I can't do it here and then upload this, but I'll show it to you in this step here. If I click the arrow next to bullets, I can change it from numbers to check marks. So I missed that step in the exercise. If I wanted to fix this because I want to get a perfect score, I would need to go and open this tips file, the original one that I uploaded, fix it, save it, and then upload the file again, both of the files again for grading in order to get that. But everybody, if you see what you did wrong and you still have an A, you might want to move on. That's not that big of a deal. Don't write to me and say, can you give me credit for that because I didn't do it? You can fix it, or if you're just happy with the 97, then just leave it at that. But that is the end of this exercise. And let me know if you have any questions as you work through this assignment.